hearts and minds clear. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us of our transgressions as we forgive those who have transgressed against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever. In Yeshua's name I pray. Let it be so. Father, I just ask you guide our minds, guard our hearts, our mouths, our ears, guide our spirits. Allow the teacher today lead us in spirit in this lesson and bring glory to the Father. Bring all glory to the Father. Let it be so.
Praises. How y'all feeling? Good? All praises. Well, continuing picking up where we left off. It's part 3. Oneness of Self. Last week we looked at cognitive dissonance. We looked at how you feel when your conscience is letting you know you got two conflicting thoughts, two conflicting things going on within you. Today, I'm gonna look at some of the ways that the mind tries to navigate that cognitive dissonance. So probably over the next few times y'all see me, I'm gonna have because it's many a ways, right? It's many a ways that the mind will try to navigate that cognitive dissonance. So today we're going to touch on one today, but it's a lot of ways, a lot of different coping mechanisms. So that's where we're going with it. As always, scriptures expressed in this study are those of the author and not my own. Viewer discretion is advised. Guidelines for the lesson. Let all things be done with decency and order. Excuse me. These lessons are intended to be interactive. So just ask the questions in a microphone so that everybody can hear you in here and online. We want to be mindful of the time, so please limit the responses to roughly 60 seconds or less. This will give others an opportunity to give input, ask questions. We want to stay on topic. If you have questions that don't pertain to the topic of the lesson, please hold those until after the study. And if we move on from a point and you don't get a chance to respond, just try to hold it until the end and we can come back to it. Right? So Hebrews 4:11. Let us therefore do our utmost to enter into that rest, lest anyone fall after the same example of disobedience. For the word of Elohim is living and working and sharper than any two-edged sword, cutting through even to the dividing of being and spirit, and of joints and marrow, and able to judge the thoughts and intentions of the heart. And there is no creature hidden from his sight, but all are naked and laid bare before the eyes of him with whom is our account. So again, it seems like every week that portion right there is tying into what we got for today. But it's so on point. The cognitive dissonance is there to give us a warning that something is off, and is supposed to, once our conscience is identifying and bearing witness that something is off, we're supposed to identify it and then make correction, right? Because the thing is that whatever it is that our conscience is letting us know, hey, something's off, the Father sees that. Whatever that is, he sees it as well. So that's him giving us an opportunity to fix it before he got to jump in, which, like I said, we'll get into that a little bit later on today. So these lessons are not directed at any one person or group, but are intended to be edifying and useful to all those who have joined themselves to the covenant of Yahuwah. So the Father is impartial and none can avoid him, even a person who is tasked with presenting this lesson, which is me, myself. So it starts here. We are all held to this standard and none of us are above his ways or corrections or reproofs. So Romans 2:1, therefore, O man, you are without excuse, everyone who judges, for in which you judge another, you condemn yourself, since you practice the same wrongs. And we know that the judgment of Elohim is according to the truth against those who practice such wrongs. And do you think, O man, you who judge those practicing such wrongs and doing the same, that you shall escape the judgment of Elohim? And obviously we know that it's a no-brainer. We know we can't. All right, so let me turn this off. All right, so oneness from opposing forces. Ephesians 4:17, he says, so this I say, and witness in the master, that you should no longer walk as the nations walk, in the futility of their mind, having been darkened in their understanding, and having been estranged from the life of Elohim because the ignorance that is in them, because of the hardness of their heart. So just keep in mind that a hardness of the heart can do what? It can darken your understanding, right? Who, having become callous or hardened, have given themselves up to indecency, to work all uncleanness with greediness. But you have not so learned Mashiach. So just keep in mind that that's the buffer. When we start to deviate off of the path, we haven't learned that of Mashiach. It should be something in us that should start raising up the defenses and the red flags to let us know something's off. Get back in alignment. He says, if indeed you have heard him and were taught by him, as truth is in Yahusha, that you put off, with regard to your former behavior, the old man being corrupted according to the desires of the deceit, and to be renewed in the spirit of your mind, and that you put on the renewed man, which was created according to Elohim, in righteousness and set apartness of truth. Therefore, having put off the false, speak truth, each one with his neighbor, for we are members of one another. Be wroth, but do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your rage, nor give place to the devil. Let him who stole steal no more, but rather let him labor, working with his hands what is good, so that he has somewhat to share with those in need. Let no corrupt word come out of your mouth, but only such as is good for the use of building up, so as to impart what is pleasant to the hearers. And do not grieve the set apart spirit of Elohim, by whom you were sealed for the day of redemption. So you got an old you and you have a renewed you, right? Every so often, the old you might want to have his place of dominance. He might want a seat back, right? But it's up to you, knowing what you've learned of Mashiach, knowing what you've learned of the Father himself, is to say, okay, let me reel that back in, right? And as long as the conscience isn't damaged, it's going to let you know when you off. So notice how these two opposing forces fight for position. As we continue, we will get a glimpse at where these two forces originate within you. But for now, we will see how there is one aspect of us that can be like the Father, and at the same time, another is present that can be contrary to him in his ways. So one ultimately is rooted in self-denial, while the other is rooted in self-seeking pleasure. One is rooted in truth, while the other is rooted in falsehood. In order to have oneness within self, one of these natures will have to be killed off, right? So we a few weeks ago we talked about the old Indian saying or Native American saying about the two wolves, right? Here it is. It says, An old Cherokee chief teaching his grandson about life. It says, a fight is going on inside me. He said to the boy, it is a terrible fight, and it is between two wolves. One is evil. He is anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, self-doubt, and ego. The other is good. He is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. He said, the same fight is going on inside of you and inside of every other person too. The grandson then asked his grandfather, which wolf will win? And the old chief simply replied, the one you feed. Right? So the lesson to be learned is that no matter where you go, everybody understands this. This is just part of being human. This is we all got that part in common. These are those two ways being presented before us. But it's up to you, which side are you going to feed? Are you going to feed the one that's evil, or are you going to feed the one that's good? Are you going to feed the old man, or are you going to feed the new man after his spirit? The choice is yours. But one of them going to win at the end of the day. Romans 6:1, he says, what then shall we say? Shall we continue in sin to let favor increase? Let it not be. How shall we who died to sin still live in it? Or do you not know that as many of us as were immersed into Mashiach Yahushua were immersed into his death? We were therefore buried with him through immersion into death, that as Mashiach was raised up from the dead by the esteem of the Father, so also we should walk in newness of life. For if we have come to be grown together in the likeness of his death, we shall be also of the resurrection. Knowing this, that our old man was impaled with him, so that the body of sin might be rendered powerless to serve sin no longer. For he who has died has been made right from sin. And if we died with Mashiach, and we believe that we shall also live with him, knowing that Mashiach, having been raised from the dead, dies no more, death no longer rules over him. For in that he died to sin once and for all. But in that he lives to Elohim. So you also reckon yourselves to be dead indeed to sin, but alive to Elohim in Mashiach Yahushua our master. Therefore, do not let sin reign in your mortal body to obey it in its desires, neither present your members as instruments of unrighteousness to sin, but present yourselves to Elohim as being alive from the dead, and your members as instruments of righteousness to Elohim. So I got a question. What happens if you don't kill off one of these two opposing forces? If you let both wolves continue to roam free, what happens?
You're lukewarm then. So, and if you're lukewarm, he said he'll spit you out. So you only really have one choice to make if you want to live.
Our praises.
Now, the other choice that you might make is going to be circumstances and situations that you're going to have to deal with. But if you really want to follow the Most High, it's pretty clear cut which one you're going to really have to choose from.
Mm-hmm.
As you're going through this, to me, it's like Paul was trying to distinguish right and wrong between those who have not learned the truth of the Messiah. And so those who are waking up, these are certain things and certain aspects that you're going to have to fight and follow in order to follow what the Messiah says.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wake-up call.
All praises.
Both sides ain't getting in the kingdom. We was talking about earlier, even with the wheats and the tares, like both sides ain't getting in. Somebody going in that fire.
Mm-hmm. If you hold on to a mixture, then the whole is gonna get thrown into the fire, right? Like he said, it's better for you to come into the kingdom lacking one eye than it is to hold on to the eye that's not right, thinking that you still gonna get in. It's not gonna work that way, right?
So basically, you'll be carrying baggage. So basically, you'll be carrying old baggage into a place where that shouldn't be. This is like going into a new relationship and carrying stuff from your past relationship over into this new thing. You can't do it.
Mm-hmm. All praises.
You know, just to land back on what my brother saying, you know, the Messiah even said that a little yeast lumpens the whole loaf. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's what you're saying. You're not going to get in the kingdom, you know, with that type of attitude or carrying that kind of luggage.
Mm-hmm. All praises. So like I said, what happens when you continue to allow both to exist within you? Is there a way to let both of them stay a part of you, but you not feel the discomfort of cognitive dissonance? Right? So this is where we start to open up the can of worms, because it's like the right thing to do is to deal with whatever is causing the cognitive dissonance. Whatever is causing you the discomfort when you know you're not moving true to yourself and true to what you believe, then the ideal thing is figure out what is causing it and then make correction. But what happens when that means, okay, now I gotta choose between two things that are equally a part of me? Now at that point, I'm either gonna make the decision to say, all right, well, I'm gonna choose the life, or I might, quote unquote, let the sleeping dog lie and let both wolves roam around freely. And if I do that, and I'm dealing with a whole nother problem, but see, the cognitive dissonance, you still got to deal with that. So now we're going to start to look at some of the ways that we deal with, okay, I got this war going on within me. I'm this over here, but then I'm also this over here. I don't like the way that I feel, but I also don't want to let go of either side.
So that would be being double-minded.
There we go.
Double-minded man is unstable in all his ways.
There we go.
Yeah.
All praises. The double mind. James 1:2, he says, my brothers, count it our joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the proving of your belief works endurance. And let endurance have a perfect work, so that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in naught. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of Elohim, who gives to all generously and without reproach, and it shall be given to him. But he should ask in belief, not doubting, for he who doubts is like a wave of the sea driven and tossed by the wind. For that man should not think that he shall receive whatever from the master. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. James 4:7, so then subject yourselves to Elohim, resist the devil and he shall flee from you. Draw near to Elohim and he shall draw near to you. Cleanse hands, sinners, and cleanse the hearts, you double-minded. Lament and mourn and weep. Let your laughter be turned to mourning and your joy to dejection. Humble yourselves in the sight of the master and he shall lift you up. So James 4:7 through 10. What was the remedy to the double mind? Submitting yourself to Elohim and enduring the what? The discomfort of the moment. This is one of those times where he tells you, hey, let your laughter be turned to a little bit of pain for the moment. Yeah. You'll get through it. But you got to work through this double mind, this war that's going on within you.
So when I think about this, it also makes me think about how fasting get things off of you.
Mm-hmm.
You just got done talking about those two wolves. Which one you feeding? So I gotta starve one of them and kill this flesh. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and let it die.
Mm-hmm. All praises. So a double mind in Greek is G1374. Dipsukos is from 1364 and 5590. Two-spirited. So again, it's only one you, but you got two different natures fighting for position within you. That's gonna cause a conflict. Two-spirited, that is vacillating in opinion or purpose, double-minded. And by the way, to vacillate means to alternate or waver between different opinions or actions, to be indecisive. Right? So notice that one can be double-minded by not choosing between the good and the evil. When one doesn't choose, the two remain mixed within the individual. Now, when this happens, you're going to, again, continue to have this cognitive dissonance thing going on, right? Where if your conscience is still intact, every time you do something after the flesh, but yet you still, okay, I got a spirit on this side, they're going to war against one another every single time because they're incompatible with one another. But you still don't want to make a choice, so then what's going to happen? This same state of mind was spoken of in Psalm 119, right? So in this, the psalmist expresses how having a love for the Torah of Elohim was a remedy for this problem. So we'll see that to the psalmist, being in a state of mixture was hated, whereas having a single mind towards the Torah of Elohim was loved, right? So Psalm 119 and 113 says, I have hated doubting thoughts. And in some translations, they'll put that as a double mind. I've hated the double mind. But I have loved your Torah. You are my hiding place and my shield. I have waited for your word. Turn away from me, you evildoers, for I observe the commands of my Elohim. Support me according to your word that I might live, and put me not to shame because of my expectation. Sustain me that I might be saved and always look towards your laws. You have made light of all those who stray away from your laws, for falsehood is their deceit. You have made to cease all the wrong of the earth like dross. Therefore I have loved your witnesses. My flesh is trembled for fear of you, and I am in awe of your right rulings. So, doubting thoughts of this double mind. This is H5588, Sa'af, which is to be divided in mind, that is concretely a skeptic in thought. Is from 5586, properly to divide up, but used only as denominative from 5585 to disbranch a tree top, right? So it's like basically when you getting into the space of having a double mind, what's happening is you dividing up your being, right? I'm this way over here, but then I'm over here, I'm this way, right? I believe this way while I'm over here, but then when I'm over there, I'm that way, right? This is a problem because, like it was said earlier, when it comes to the Father, he's not going to accept that, right? So here, instead of having a single mind representing oneness, one has divided up their thoughts, allowing for a mixture. And then I also wanted to point out, notice here that the psalmist has made Elohim his hiding place. So just keep this in mind because we're going to touch on this a little bit in a little bit. So again, what happens when we don't want to let one of the wolves die? We want to keep both of them, but we also don't want to feel the discomfort of the cognitive dissonance. And now we put ourselves in a situation where one or two things gonna happen, right? You either gonna lose your mind, and that's like more extreme cases, right? Where you get into like dissociation and things like that. Like now you dealing with multiple personalities, right? So I'm not necessarily touching on that. Or the other option is you're gonna find some sort of workaround, right? Some sort of way to cope and still maintain stability in your mind while not dealing with the problem. So, has anybody ever heard of the phrase to compartmentalize? Compartmentalization. Do I have anybody to tell me what do y'all know about when we compartmentalize? Anybody? It's cool. It's on the slide. We're gonna get because this is a thing. Like we all can do it, but especially to my ox, like it's almost like we designed to compartmentalize. Like we have to in some way. So like I do want to. There is a healthy version of compartmentalizing, but there's also an unhealthy version of compartmentalizing.
Me personally, it's like I got a lot of things going on at the same time, and I have to. It's almost the best way I could describe it is, like you know how you go to Buffalo Wild Wings when football season is on. You got a bunch of good games going on, but you can't really follow them all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
You got to focus in on the one you want to really.
Mm-hmm.
Which one's more critical to you?
Mm-hmm.
So throughout the day, you face that when you're in a position of authority, at home, at work. You know, you can't, and then you want to kind of decompress that somehow in prayer, working out, and don't spill that over, you know, with aggression and just with your emotions. So you compartmentalize each situation.
All praises. I'm about to say, I know somebody in here know about it. I ain't the only one. Good grief. Go ahead.
Like sections. Like you have a place for every thought, every action. There's a place in your brain for, like you're sectioning it out almost. Where does it go? When am I going to be able to use it? Why do I need it? Things like that. Think about sectioning out. Like everything has a place.
He don't know nothing about no compartmentalization.
I do think as men, we learn how to be pros at it. Just learning how to put this back here because I got this task up front, and then I'm gonna have another task. I gotta put this task over here, and we function. It doesn't cause us not to operate, but we can. And some of the situations in our head might be serious situations, but we're not spazzing out over it. It's like, I'll deal with this later.
All praises. So like I said, there's a such thing as healthy compartmentalizing, right? Like in some ways it's required of us in that moment, because otherwise if we don't compartmentalize, again, this is where we start to lose control of what's going on upstairs, right? Because you got all these things that you got to try to balance. And so in a healthy way, it's just a matter of you prioritizing, what am I dealing with right here, right now, right? But the question becomes, what do we do? And that's fine in just dealing with everyday, day-to-day life. But what do we do when we're dealing with having to resolve an issue with a core belief that we have with, say, Torah? If we compartmentalize it in that space, then we might run into a problem, right? So in the field of psychology, cognitive dissonance, this is what we looked at last week, right? Cognitive dissonance is described as a mental phenomenon in which people unknowingly hold fundamentally conflicting cognitions. So being confronted by situations that challenge us or that challenge this dissonance may ultimately result in some change in their cognitions or actions to cause greater alignment between them so as to reduce this dissonance, right? So last week we talked about cognitive dissonance. Today we're going to look at one of the more common ways that we resolve cognitive dissonance within ourselves. So compartmentalization. So compartmentalization is a defense mechanism, which is a strategy the psyche uses to avoid feeling anxiety, especially related to internal conflicts. So with compartmentalization, the person separates feelings or thoughts that contradict each other into different compartments in order to avoid the cognitive dissonance that arises when a thought or feeling we have starts to contradict a different thought or feeling that we are also aware of. So again, like I said, in matters of faith, when we look at this can be a bad thing, right? Because now this is the perfect scenario for us to allow the double mind, right, continue to live. Compartmentalization allows the person to maintain both conflicting identities without the burden on their conscience or the cognitive dissonance, right? So this is your mind's way of working around the discomfort in that moment, right? Just like in a healthy way, we're prioritizing and saying, okay, right now I can't deal with that. That's not us saying it's not important. But it's saying right now I have to prioritize and I can't deal with this right now. Because if I do, now I'm just going to be like y'all remember the game Frogger? You trying to cross the street and his truck's coming this way, his truck's coming that way. And it's like you jumping forward and then jumping back and then jumping forward and then jumping back. And eventually, you know, if you ain't nimble enough, you get a semi truck pull up and then you get squashed. And it's game over, right? So again, like I said, in day-to-day life, when we're not dealing with issues of morality, it's almost necessary. But when we are dealing with the internal conflicts, it can become a problem. Compartmentalization is a psychological defense mechanism in which thoughts and feelings that seem to conflict are kept separated or isolated from each other in the mind. So those with post-traumatic stress disorder may use compartmentalization to separate positive and negative self aspects. So it may be a form of mild dissociation. Example scenarios that suggest compartmentalization include acting in an isolated moment in a way that logically defies one's own moral code, or dividing one's unpleasant work duties from one's desire to relax. Its purpose is to avoid cognitive dissonance. So remember we was talking about the cognitive dissonance, and then this is why did we do this? It's to avoid the cognitive dissonance. So its purpose is to avoid cognitive dissonance or the mental discomfort and anxiety caused by a person having conflicting values, cognitions, emotions, beliefs, etc. within themselves. So give you an example. People that go to war. Over here in a civilian life might be the nicest person, might be the coolest, most mellow individual. But you can't take that over there, right? Like over there, you gotta be what the job requires. And so what happens is people come back and they all kinds of messed up because they had to do things that is in conflict with who they truly are if they weren't in that situation. So how do they deal with it? Some people lose it because they can't juggle it, and some people find a workaround. They compartmentalize it. Well, that's who I was over there, and I'm gonna leave that over there. We don't talk about it. We don't visit that. It don't even exist. If I'm not over there, it don't exist. That's compartmentalizing. When I got my uniform on, this is who I am. When I don't have my uniform on, this is who I am. Two completely separate entities living in the same vessel. Problem with that, like I said, when we're dealing with matters of morality and what we say we believe, Father doesn't allow us to straddle the fence. So now that means one way or the other, we know in the back of our mind he's going to judge whatever it is that we doing or not doing. But the compartmentalization, it allows us to numb the pain in the moment. So compartmentalization allows these conflicting ideas to coexist by inhibiting direct or explicit acknowledgement and interaction between separate compartmentalized self states. What is that saying? As long as I don't have to take off my uniform on the battlefield, I'm good. I can continue to be a soldier, right? Like everything is good until it's like that little baby that walks up and now it's like, but this is what war is telling me I need to do. But this is a kid. Now I'm having that conflict. I got to deal with it because my humanity is being pulled on. All the while, the job is requiring that I do away with it. That's when we start to have these problems and these wake-up moments where the conscience is like screaming at us and it's like, we got to do something.
So what do you use as a point of reference?
In an ideal situation, this is the reason why we have his laws, his statutes, his commandments, his word. Again, remember what I said last week. The conscience can only do so much. And where the conscience kind of is limited, that's where the next step comes in. And it's now we got his Torah, we got his word, right? That's going to set the standard. And it's supposed to say, I understand this is how you feel, but this is what his word says. So this is where we get into the situation where we understand, okay, I'm choosing to suffer or I'm choosing to endure because this is me subjecting myself to Elohim, right? And if we have faith and belief in what his word is saying, then we know that that comes with reward. So we endure and we make the choice to endure. And then that's when when we're in that space, we can count it our joy when we fall into these various trials because we know what is working in us. But if you're already having an issue with the word and all you got is your conscience, now we might have some problems. So when we compartmentalize, we keep the negative aspects of ourselves separate from our positive core beliefs. So this allows us to operate and function one way under certain circumstances and environments while maintaining conflicting, contradicting behavior in another environment. So this allows the person to resolve their cognitive dissonance. And as long as the two worlds don't mix or interact with each other, the person will not feel the cognitive dissonance of their contradicting beliefs. So this allows them to ignore their conscience and its desire to find a resolution to the conflicting beliefs, morals, and values within themselves, right? We all heard it. When it's Rome, do as the Romans do, right? What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? Like, it's wild, it's bananas, like when on this side of the walk. But to some degree, like, I'll put it this way. I remember when Facebook first came out, there was somebody that we knew that had like 2 Facebook pages, right? So like in our circle had this one Facebook page where it was like, this the one that we all had. I mean, I didn't have it because I wasn't on Facebook, but I remember when this happened because I didn't get into it, but I remember when this happened and it was like all of the friends saw this version of this individual. But then they had a whole nother side of friends. And these two bodies of friends did not mix. And they was this way on this side, but then on that side, they was a completely different way. And they did not want one side to see the other side because then, like, everybody would have been, like, looking at you crazy. Like, neither one of these is the real you. So, like, I say all that to say that compartmentalization is a real thing, and it happens beyond just the extremes. Like, when I'm over here, I do this. When I'm over there, I do this. Another example, we all heard of the Sunday only Christian, right? Like, we all seen that. We all know that. Like, in church, praise the Lord. He's the greatest thing. But then the other days, you might be doing some wild stuff, right? Compartmentalization.
So I was sitting here and I was reading some stuff about that, and you look at like an addict, and so you will see this person that would let things happen, like, you know, sell their bodies, you know, just to get high, and sell the kids stuff and all kind of crazy stuff, but at the core they still hold on to some type of morals, and so this is how they allow both sides to still coexist.
All praises. All praises. So psychoanalysis considers that whereas isolation separates thoughts from feeling, compartmentalization separates different incompatible cognitions from each other. So as a secondary intellectual defense, it may be linked to rationalization. So it is also related to the phenomenon of neurotic typing, whereby everything must be classified into mutually exclusive and watertight categories. So those who have PTSD or some sort of trauma often compartmentalize positive and negative self aspects more than those without PTSD. So this helps keep the negative self aspects from overtaking the positive self aspects. So positive self concept can be kept safe through the use of compartmentalization, specifically for those who have experienced sexual trauma and have subsequently been diagnosed with PTSD. So there is such a thing, like I said, of healthy compartmentalization. But like I said, we won't be focusing on that part of it so much today. Today, I want to focus on compartmentalizing conflicting core beliefs, such as when we have a belief in Torah, but also have a non-compatible belief at the same time. So this causes a cognitive dissonance within us. But instead of changing our beliefs and behaviors, we instead can develop a double mind and live a double life as a result. So this is problematic because we can't be excused by the Father.
I'm sorry,
No, you good.
Because I was just explaining about how, you know, a dope addict will do those types of things, but at the same time knowing I got to go to work. If I don't go to work, I can't get that. You know what I'm saying? I still love my husband. He's still there. I'm going to take care of my kids the best way I can in this type of mindset. And that's what I meant by how they allow both sides to exist. So I just want to say that because I left that part out.
All praises. So Deuteronomy 27:14, it says, "And the Levites shall speak with a loud voice and say to all the men of Israel, cursed is the man who makes a carved and molded image, an abomination to Yahuwah, the work of the hands of the craftsman, and sets it up in secret. And all the people shall answer and say, Amen." Now, they all did agree that day when they heard this, right? So then what happened when we see the story of Achan? And he saw the Babylonish garment, saw the silver, hid it in his tent. What happened when they was in the wilderness and then they making idols, right? Like what happened? Because here they saying we agree and it sounds good, but then on the flip side, you see, like I said, especially with Achan, like he knew it was wrong. He took it and hid it in his tent. So what's happening is now you're seeing where over here, I'm in agreement, but over here, I like the idol too. Again, like I said, when we're dealing with the Father, every time that's going to run us into a problem. Right? He knew good and well, I can't bring that out here. But that didn't stop him from having it in his tent. Right?
what he did ended up affecting the whole congregation or the whole community, right? So it just lets you know what a little bit of leaven can destroy the whole lump. So thinking that you can do these things and there's going to be no consequence behind it is a devilish mind. You know, that you feel like as if you're doing something that you're getting away with, but not realizing that it didn't only affect you, but it affected the whole community, which in turn, the consequences in turn affected your whole family, not just you. So if you're thinking that you're doing these things, these certain things, and you're the only one, you know, going to be held responsible for it, that ain't necessarily true. Because if it's not only going to affect you, but those around you is going to affect also.
His whole house, that man's whole house, everything got destroyed, right? So that tells me that they saw it go down. Nobody said anything, right? So they all face the penalty. Like, we know he's not destroying the just and the unjust alike, but they saw it, so then now they became complicit in the act. Psalm 119:12, who discerns mistakes? Declare me innocent from those that are secret. Also keep your servant back from presumptuous ones. Do not let them rule over me. Then shall I be perfect and innocent of great transgression. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing before you, O Yahuwah, my rock and my redeemer. So H 56:43. Sit there, a cover, in a good or bad sense, literal or figurative, backbiting, covering, covert, a disguise, a hiding place, privately, protection, secret, or a secret place. From H 56:41, Sathar, to hide by covering, literally or figuratively, to be absent, keep close, conceal, to hide self, to keep secret. We get it, right? This is what happens when we compartmentalize and we got conflicting moral beliefs, right? Then it becomes a thing where, okay, over here I'm righteous and upright, but then over here I got a whole nother side. Again, that's the perfect place for the double mind to thrive, because now you don't have to resolve the double mind. Danger in this is you done found a way to work around your conscience, so now you don't even hear your conscience. As long as these two worlds don't mix, I can continue to keep it quote unquote secret. But as we see, that's even going to be a problem, because you're only going to get away with that for so long. And the Father brings that up to the surface.
It's kind of like in church, or even in any type of assembly, how we can live a double life, as long as the pastor, we fear the pastor more than we have understanding that Yahuwah sees all. How we learn how to cut it on, turn it off. So, but eventually the Father will write on the wall.
All praises. And now, mind you, the goal of these lessons is that we can start identifying when these processes are going on in our head, right? Because if you understand what's going on and you can identify it, then that puts you in a position where you could do something about it, versus just being in this blissful state of ignorance, not knowing why you going through what you're going through and that you even going through it, right? Till it's too late, and then it's like, man, what happened? How did I get here? So, like I was saying, this is where dark things begin to be done in secret. So one may begin to behave in a certain way in certain circumstances, but they keep this behavior separate from the more noble version of themselves. So this essentially allows the person to behave as two different individuals based on two different environments. And this causes a split within a person. So when a person gets to this point, they may have some deeply rooted issues that they will have to work out. If they are able to comfortably operate within this state, they essentially have found a way to work around their conscience, and this can lead to a reprobate condition, right? Like the conscience is there to keep you from becoming a reprobate. His Torah is there to work with the conscience to keep you from becoming a reprobate. The Ruach is there, like all of these are all working together to keep you from doing that. But if you keep using the back door and using a workaround and ignoring it, continuing to let it coexist, then that's just when they stop working. And now you don't even hear it. You done got numb to the noise. 1 Timothy 4:1, it says, "Now the Spirit speaketh expressly that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils, speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with a hot iron." Right? So you don't just wake up and get there. That's not how this works. It's a process. But ultimately, all of it is rooted in you wanting to hold on to some level of falsehood, some level of a desire that's associated with a falsehood. And then now you'll give heed to a Ruach that's telling you everything that you want to hear, that's allowing you to exist in this state. We wonder now, is certain doctrines that come up and it's like, man, how did you knew the truth and you was doing just fine, and then now you got a whole altar and a shrine in your closet. How did you get here? And it's because oftentimes this things is not being resolved within the individual, and now you found that back door, right? Now you're listening to things that are of no profit to you. So, hypocrisy. What can y'all tell me about a hypocrite or hypocrisy? I mean, dang, man, help a brother out. I know somebody in here know what a hypocrite is. Come on, fam.
I mean, biblically with the Pharisees, right? The Pharisees were big hypocrites. So it was interesting. I was reading Messiah told us, you know, they sit on Moses' chair, you know, the teachers of the law. Listen to what they say, but don't do what they do. You know, where they do not practice what they preach. Mm-hmm. You talk that good talk, but then we see your walk is the opposite way.
Mm-hmm. All praises. Toda. All right. There we go. Nadavia.
As some people will call fake, phony, actor. You're not true. One way in front of other people, one way behind doors. Actor.
All praises. So, G5272, hypocrisy, acting under a feigned part, that is figuratively deceit or hypocrisy, condemnation, dissimulation, hypocrisy. Is from G5271, which is to decide to speak or act under a false part, that is figuratively to dissemble, to pretend, to feign, right? So it's an act, right? That's what they used to call the old actors in ancient Greek world. Up there you go to the Colosseum and see a show. These are the hypocrites, the actors, right? They're just acting a part. He's a killer on the stage, but that's not really who he is. He's just putting on this show for us. That's a hypocrite, right? So notice that this was a lesson that Yahuwah was trying to convey to Cain. You got some things going on in you. You up here acting like you good and you okay. But in reality, it's something trying to take you over. These forces were at war within him, and it was his responsibility to deal with the nature of sin that was crouching at his door. So again, notice that there's a nature that is within you that can be contrary to you. If you don't govern over it, it will rule over you. So this duality within mankind is something that all mankind understands. So we see symbols such as the yin and the yang, stories such as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and the Incredible Hulk that try to express this dual nature about mankind, right? Like Hulk said, hey, you won't like me when I'm angry, right? Like, I got a whole nother gear and a whole nother side. Like me and Ak was just talking about this earlier in the week. It's a whole nother side of me that it's completely night and day from who I am right now, right? So like that's the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Like this is something that's common to all of us. We all have the ability to become something that we really don't want to be. But it's up to all of us to say, all right, let me figure out how to navigate this thing, work this out so that I can bring oneness in myself. Now I don't have to deal with the cognitive dissonance anymore, right? Now, what's interesting about Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, Incredible Hulk, like Bruce Banner, is that's an extreme version of compartmentalization where they start to dissociate, right? This is like I was saying earlier where if you ever seen anybody with multiple personalities, how they like switch between the different, and it's like 1 minute you talking to a little girl or a little boy, then the next minute you talking to a college student, then the next minute you talking to like a physicist, the next minute you talking to like, and they just jump between the different phases. And then the thing about it is when they're that person, you can't tell them that they're anything else, right? Like, so again, those are extreme versions of it, but it's really like compartmentalization to like the 10th power. So a war between these opposing forces, 2 Samuel 11 verse 1.
I was going to say, even when Paul called out Peter, once everybody that was keeping the Torah real strict, and then Peter stood up and acted like he didn't know the Gentiles all of a sudden.
All praises. I went back and forth about putting that in this lesson, and I was like, it's getting kind of lengthy. So I left it out. I'm glad you brought that up. All praises. It's exactly what it is, right? Like, when they around, you dapping them up, you cool, you kicking it. But then once they come around, now all of a sudden, you holier than thou. I have no dealings, no Gentiles. Right? Like, what are we doing? Now you two completely different individuals. This is a hypocrite. You walking with a double mind. How can we tell them to move like this and then you not even moving right? Right? So 2 Samuel 11 verse 1. What do we know about David? About David.
Killed his best friend.
One of the first kings killed his mans, right? Have any of us ever heard that he was a righteous man, a man after Yahuwah's own heart?
Yes.
So we know that he had that side of him, right? We saw him time and time and time again have his faith tested before he did this with Bathsheba. Time and time and time again. Get his faith tested and then come out on the right side of it. So we know who he is and what he was about. But then something happens to where he also did this. And it's like, man, how does this happen? 2 Samuel 11 verse 1. It says, and it came to be at the turn of the year, at the time that the kings go out to battle, that David sent Joab and his servants with him and all Israel, and they destroyed the children of Ammon and besieged Rabbah. But David remained at Jerusalem. So already, what's the problem?
All the men.
Already not doing what he's supposed to be doing, right? You're already slipping. See, like Elder was saying earlier, a little bit of leaven can leaven the whole lump, right? I'm already not where I'm supposed to be. I'm already not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. This is the time where the kings go out to war, and I'm not going out to war. Look, we got it. Y'all go knock this out. Now, in previous lessons, we done talked about how the enemy works, right? Like, he's seeking somebody to devour. Comes at an opportune time, right? Looking to catch you slipping. So now, we'll continue. So it says, and it came to be at evening time. It's getting good and dark outside. Let me stand out on the balcony and let me get some air. Let me look out at the stars. Yahuwah is good. We at war. We winning in war. This is my imagination working, y'all. It says, and David rose up from his bed and walked out on the roof of the king's house. And from the roof, he saw a woman bathing, and the woman was very good to look at. Uh-oh. We got a problem, right? And David sent and asked about the woman, and one said, is this not Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite? Now, right there, what was supposed to happen?
My bad. It should have been, my bad.
Instantly, right?
Yeah.
Conscience was supposed to be screaming, no, conviction, right? Nah, you know what? You right, I'm tripping. She ain't even know I was up there. I ain't had no business when I seen it. I should have, matter of fact, send her notice. Let her know, hey, put a sheet up, make sure, because you don't never know who might be. But again, when you're dealing with the flesh, now we got a problem, right? Now, this is a righteous man, right? He know better. He knows his father. He knows better, right? He just heard somebody tell him, hey, but hold on, wait a minute. Why are you asking that? That's so-and-so. That's your man's. Okay. And David sent messengers to fetch her. So somewhere in there, he didn't listen to his conscience. He didn't listen to his counsel, right? Torah is having no effect. It's all shut down. Again, go ahead.
And I think this is an example how total power can corrupt. Now, you know you're the king. It's not much that you can't say that won't be done, right? Unless you have some boundaries or wise counsel, before you. So this is how man can become corrupt and actually can be righteous, but can become corrupt for a short period of time. And David fell victim to this. Matter of fact, he magnified it, by trying to hide it.
All praises. So it says, and she came to him and he lay with her, for she was cleansing herself from her uncleanness, and she returned to her house. And the woman conceived and sent and informed David and said, I am pregnant. Then David sent to Joab, send Uriah the Hittite to me. And Joab sent Uriah to David, and Uriah came to him. And David asked how Joab was doing, and how the people were doing, and how the fighting was going. And David said to Uriah, go down to your house and wash your feet. And Uriah went out from the king's house, and a gift from the king followed him. So now he's trying to bribe him. He's trying to get him good and buttered up, right? Go ahead. That way I can cover this up. So now we seeing where we'll continue. But Uriah lay down at the door of the king's house with all the servants of his master, and did not go down to his house. And they informed David, saying, Uriah did not go down to his house. So David said to Uriah, did you not come from a journey? Why did you not go down to your house? And Uriah said to David, the ark of Israel and Yehuda are dwelling in booths, and my master Joab and the servants of my master are encamped in the open fields. And should I go to my house to eat and to drink and to lie down and to lie with my wife? As you live and as your being lives, let me not do this. And David said to Uriah, remain here today also, and tomorrow I let you go. So Uriah remained in Jerusalem that day and the next. And David called him, and he ate and drank before him, and he made him drunk. And at evening he went out to lie on his bed with the servants of his master, but he did not go down to his house. And it came to be in the morning that David wrote a letter to Joab and sent it by the hand of Uriah. And he wrote in the letter saying, set Uriah in the front of the toughest battle, and you shall turn away from him, and he shall be stricken and shall die. And it came to be, as Joab watched the city, that he appointed Uriah to the place where he knew there were brave men. And the men of the city came out and fought with Joab, and some of the people of the servants of David fell, and Uriah the Hittite also died. So now, what would y'all say about David? Is he righteous or is he wicked? Like, just from this story here. Man, completely wicked, right? Like, it's about as bad as it can get, right? And then we see that he's righteous, right? So all the more reason why, man, you have no reason and no way to justify this. But yet, what is David doing? So he's one way in front of all of the king's men, everybody. Like, this was a secret, right? Like, hey, don't let nobody know. Just don't ask no questions. Just do what I said, right? But then what happens?
Nathan the prophet came to him and gave him a situation where the ruling that he made was against his own self.
So it appealed to the other side of him, right?
Exactly.
So he, again, both of these things are living within him, and they're not even mixing, to the point to where he done compartmentalized this behavior so bad from his true core beliefs that scenario done came to him and he don't even realize that it's talking about him.
Yes.
This is how bad he done compartmentalized it.
No, I'm just saying how we can get so caught up in our sin that we forget that we're even sinning.
Mm-hmm.
You know it and you compartmentalize it.
Mm-hmm.
You put it in the back. It's like, I don't want my conscience telling me this right now.
Mm-hmm.
The flesh is
All
outweighing the
praises.
spirit.
All praises. All praises. So he's moving in a way to where, now mind you, if the father don't step in, what happens? He keep on moving down this path, right? Father don't step in and correct it, then he keep on going about his day like this never happened, right? Hey, the man is dead. I covered it all up. No worries. Father intervenes.
I mean, just imagine if he got away with it and that child becomes king.
Mm. Mm-hmm. And then, you know how it is when you get away with it once. It's that much easier to cross that line the next time, and the next time, and the next time, and the next time. Like, it was many a wicked kings that was 100% wicked, right? That they didn't start with sacrificing babies to Molech. It just grew that way. Like, it got that way.
Just to land back on what he was saying about the child. Now, if the child lives and comes to the knowledge that David wasn't his father and finds out exactly what happened, there's going to be some conflict there. Because a lot of kids going to want to take revenge, you know, when they come to find out what truly happened. You had my father killed. And then you take of me under your arm like you my father, but in reality, you sinned against my father. And I am evidence of that.
Well, remember, it was David's child. It was just not supposed to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a conflict there.
Yeah.
With the other kids.
Yeah.
You know. And on top of it, once the child learns how he became, and
Yeah,
what
yeah,
truly
yeah.
happened to his father,
I see
there
what
goes
you're
some
saying.
more conflicts.
Yeah.
You know, so you digging yourself in a deeper hole, basically.
Absolutely.
You know, and even though David prayed and asked the Most High to not to destroy the child, you know, but that's what that decision was left up to Yah. You know, so you know, David should have been, by the law, David should have been put to death for the discretion he had against, you know, the woman, being married, and then setting up this man's death. You know, so by the law, David should have been put to death, but through the grace and the love of the Messiah, and David repenting
There we go.
of what he did, you know, is one of the reasons why he wasn't put to death. You know, but the law still had to be fulfilled. Somebody had to go. So in order for it to be fulfilled, that child was going to be the sacrifice for that. But you're gonna suffer some consequences behind your action, David. So his whole family was all in disarray after that. You know, so there's going to be punishment behind your actions, even though you repent, you know, with all your heart and all your soul, you know. And that's how the Messiah will make his ruling.
So hold on to that thought.
I just want to stem off what you said when you asked, what if he would have gotten away with it? Ecclesiastes 8:11 says, because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, therefore the heart of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil.
Excellent.
So I think what Elder was just saying, good point, sis. You have David commit adultery. They have this child. This child had to be slain, like he's just said, by the law, because if this child lives, now at some point he can become heir to this throne. And so because of that, but like he said, but because of the Most High's mercy, you can't show the Most High's mercy by only going off the letter of the law. You understand what I'm saying? Because if that was the case, most of us wouldn't even be here right now.
All praises. So, all praises. So, okay, next slide. So, yeah, so chapter 12, verse 1, it says, then Yahuwah sent Nathan to David, and he came to him and he said to him, there were two men in one city, one rich and the other poor. The rich one had flocks and herds, very many, but the poor one had one little ewe lamb which he had bought and kept alive, and it grew up with him and his children together. It ate of his own food and drank from his own cup and lay in his bosom, and it was like a daughter to him. And a traveler came to the rich man, who refused to take from his own flock and from his own herd to prepare one for the wayfaring man who had come to him. But he took the poor man's lamb and prepared it for the man who had come to him. And the wrath of David burned greatly against the man, and said to Nathan, as Yahuwah lives, the man who has done this is a son of death. So now we got a conflict of interest here, right? It's a problem here. He sees that this is wrong, and he believes that this is wrong. But right now he got on his king hat, you see. So now he judging, right? Like, hey, this man right here, he dead wrong. But we gonna see, this was talking about him. So he's compartmentalized this, to that effect, to where he don't even see. Look how far off you are from what your core beliefs are. Look how far off you done got from the shore. You way out at sea. Verse 6, it says also he has to repay fourfold for the lamb because he did this deed and he had no compassion. Then Nathan said to David, you are the man. Thus said Yahuwah Elohim of Israel, I anointed you king over Israel, and I delivered you from the hand of Shaul. And I gave you your master's house and your master's wives into your bosom, and gave you the house of Israel and Yehudah. And if that were not enough, I also would have given you much more. Jumping down to verse 11. Thus said Yahuwah, see, I am raising up evil against you from your own house, and shall take your wives before your eyes and give them to your neighbor, and he shall lie with your wives in the sight of this son. For you did it in secret, but I shall do this deed before all Israel and before the sun. So we know the rest of David's life, right? Every one of his sons except Solomon, he had problems with, right? The wife that he got from Shaul, his daughter, right? What happened with her? Had to put her away because and it was already known that there was a man that was running around chasing after her, and he had to already no, come back to the house. So you see how when we dealing with the father, right? And this is actually the best case scenario because like we said, like sis brought out, now when you don't get corrected, it gets even worse and worse and worse. You have no incentive or no reason to stop. So you better hope that the father is bringing forth some judgments and bringing forth some disasters your way, especially if you out of alignment, because that's the one thing that hopefully if you humble yourself, it can save you. But if you choose to keep, then now we're going to be dealing with even worse things, right? I.e. the reprobate mind. Now it's like at this point, seared with a hot iron, there's nothing that anybody can do, right? So we better hope that he's sending correction, because if he's not, then that means that he probably already washed his hands. Either that or he's just holding out in mercy, because when he does step in, it's going to be when disaster strikes. So Matthew 25 or 23 and 25, he says, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you clean the outside of the cup and dish, but inside they are filled with plunder and unrighteousness. Blind Pharisee, first clean the inside of the cup and dish, so that the outside then becomes clean too. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you are like whitewashed tombs, which outwardly indeed look well, but inside are filled with dead men's bones and all uncleanness. So you too outwardly indeed appear righteous to men, but inside you are filled with hypocrisy and lawlessness. Right? So notice here the issue is that they were only acting a part because of the setting that they were in. So in secret, they were actually a different way than they were in public. So in fact, in their secret parts of their hearts, they were someone else than what they showed to others. Right? So again, this is where compartmentalizing is not a good thing, because in essence, we allowing both the old man and the new man to exist at the same time. And that's not even realistic. We just tricking ourselves into thinking that they're existing at the same time by not listening to the battle that's taking place. So, for instance, a rabbit. Why is a rabbit unclean? So it is. I heard you say it. Okay, so the feet, right? It chews the cud, but the feet are not cloven hooves, right? What makes the pig unclean? It has a cloven foot. We all know. I mean, let me not speak for everybody. I ain't gonna say we all know about pig feet. I know about pig feet. It's a cloven foot.
Keep the. They were designed to eat things that were unclean. I mean, they kept the land clean. Yeah, right, exactly. The garbage disposal. You know what I mean? So, the things that they were taking in for nourishment was things that we weren't allowed to eat anyway. So, and their whole body function wasn't set up to be recognized as food.
So now notice with the pig, the diet, but we know that in order for it to be considered clean or acceptable, it has to meet both qualifications, right? So if it's unclean in one aspect and only half of it is unclean, the whole of the animal is considered what? Unclean.
Half truth is still a lie.
A half truth is still a lie. All praises. So, like, again, we see how this works when we dealing with, okay, I've compartmentalized this part of myself over here, but then this part is over here, and it can become a problem because, again, at Hebrews 4, like, the Father sees us exactly as we are, and nothing is hidden. So he sees both sides, and he's going to judge it as what? If it's half unclean, he's going to judge it as what? Unclean. So this is the reason why we got to really strive to bring the oneness to self and try to, each day take up that stake and kill the old man daily. Like, this is the reason why that's so important. So
It's really deep, like the oneness and self, because you may ask, well, how can a righteous man like David go so long during doing what he did and not know until a prophet came to him that he was in error? I don't know if it's not know, but whatever was going on in his brain, he was justifying it.
mm-hmm.
It just makes me think how deep it is to be in one with yourself. Like, these lessons, of course, you're bringing them out, but are we really thinking about what that means? You know what I mean? To be one with yourself, to where, like, when temptations or trials or whatever occurs, you can be able to say, no, immediately. You know what I mean? So by just righteous as David, like, even he, so it's like, we talks about how the righteous will scarcely get in. Makes me think about that. Like, even us, like, we may not go to that extreme, but what would we go to the extreme for is the question we have to think about. Like, what is it with us? What is it? Let me really think about it. You know what I mean? It's deep, honestly. It really is.
Absolutely. Remember when we started, we looked at the putting on that armor and what's the chinks in your armor, right? Like, what's my thing? And let me figure that out so that I can get it strengthened, get it built up.
I think it goes back to when I was stating, what is your point of reference? What your point of reference should be is the Torah. So if you study and read the Torah, that would be your point of reference to where your conscience will be seared with the word, so that when you do things that are contrary to it, you should have a negative effect within you. Now they also states that total power corrupts. David was the king, right? His word was law, right? And this is how people that are in power can become corrupt, because they think that they have to answer to nobody, simply because you think that you are a king. But what the Messiah had to let David know, that even though you're a king, there's still certain boundaries and points of reference that you have to stand by, and in order to lead in a righteous way. So if your point of reference is not the Torah or the scriptures, then you're liable to be certain things that you shouldn't do will enter your mind and your heart and then you try to justify it, by ways of saying, no checks or balances.
All praises. So, Father sees everything. Daniel 2:20. Daniel responded and said, "Blessed be the name of Eluah forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his, and he changes times and the seasons. He removes kings and raises up kings. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who possess understanding. He reveals deep and secret matters. He knows what is in the darkness, and light dwells with him." Ephesians 5:8. "For we were once darkness, but now you are light in the Master. Walk as children of light. For the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness, righteousness, and truth, proving what is well-pleasing to the Master. And have no fellowship with the fruitless works of darkness, but rather convict them. For it is a shame even to speak of what is done by them in secret. But all matters being convicted are manifested by the light, for whatever is manifested is light." Revelation 3:15 says, "I know your works, that you are neither hot nor cold. I would that you were cold or hot." Right? So this is that, again, that double mind operating with these compartmentalized beliefs in this compartmentalized state. And now you neither this or that. You just existing. And that's a problem, right? He says, "So because you are lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I am going to vomit you out of my mouth. Because you say, 'Rich I am, and I am made rich, and need none at all, and do not know that you are wretched and pitiable and poor and blind and naked. I advise you to buy from me gold refined in the fire, so that you become rich, and white garments, so that you become dressed, so that the shame of your nakedness might not be shown, and anoint your eyes with ointment, so that you see." So again, Father is in his mercy giving us an opportunity, right? Hey, I advise, figure this thing out. I'm giving you some mercy so that your nakedness don't got to be on display, right? I want you to get covered, but with that comes, we got to humble ourselves. We got to accept what's coming our way, and then we got to move accordingly, right? He says, "As many as I love, I reprove and discipline, so be ardent and repent." So now judgment is coming my way. Things not working out. Don't consider it a strange thing. Look at this as an opportunity for the salvation of your soul, right? He says, "See, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I shall come to him and dine with him, and he with me. To him who overcomes, I shall give to sit with me on my throne, as I also overcame and sat down with my Father on his throne. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit of the Ruach says to the assemblies." So, like I said, notice here you have to be ardent and repent and choose which side you will allow to exist. You will not be able to serve two masters. In the event that one continues to let both coexist without humbling themselves and choosing to repent, their conscience becomes seared as with a hot iron, and they begin to dissociate from reality and truth. At this point, a person becomes reprobate and are able to see themselves as righteous without having to put away the things contrary to the belief, right? So if you don't humble yourself, now other things start to come in, justifications and everything else, excuses, whatever else it is that you plug and play into this equation to allow you to be able to continue to see yourself instead of dealing with the problem. But again, the consequence to that is dealing with the Father. Like, it's either we're going to be granted access in or we ain't. And that's it. Romans 1:18, 1:18 through 32. We know what it says. I'm sure most of us are familiar with it. Talking about a reprobate mind. In essence, in a nutshell, All of us don't have an excuse, right? He's given us a conscience. He's given us all these things to let us know the difference between right and wrong. Then he's even chastising, sending forth correction, letting us know, hey, pump your brakes. I know I can speak again for me. Anytime where I'm getting out of line, like something happens to get me back on track. That's for sure. I'm thankful for it. It don't feel good in a moment, but all you can say is it is what it is. And tomorrow, as long as I got today, I'm going to keep on moving better in the future. Try not to do that again. That's all you can do. But notice it. The key to getting a oneness in self is first looking in the mirror and accepting what it is that you see as you see it. You got to be able to have that tough conversation, that difficult conversation in the mirror. Yeah, I see that. That's not right. I'm not even saying that I know what to do about it, but I know it's there. Now I'm in this position where I can go to the Father and ask, help me work this out. And he will, as long as we're willing to keep on keeping on. So yeah, like I said, I'm not gonna go over dissociation today. I'm gonna call it there. Yeah, I'm gonna call it there. Yeah, I'm gonna call it there for the day. So yeah, with that, that's what we got. Next week, we'll probably start to look at dissociation, and then we'll look at justification and how that plays a role in this, right? Because just because compartmentalization is a thing for some, that don't mean that it's the thing, it's the out for everybody, right? Some people don't compartmentalize at all, but what they do is they might be justifiers of their bad behavior, right? Some people might not be justifiers of their bad behavior, but they just might not deal with it at all. And it's like, well, over here I'm gonna do this, and then over there I'm gonna do that, and not let the two mix, right? Because that wasn't the issue with David. Like, once it was brought to his attention and he saw it, he didn't justify it and make excuses. That wasn't his out. His out was, well, maybe if I can, and if he just dies on the field and I don't kill him, well, maybe it wasn't me that did it, right? Like, maybe I can just pretend that this didn't happen at all. Like, that was his thing. But once it was brought to his attention, he humbled himself, So, yeah, the coping mechanisms are not going to be the same for every person. And it's not going to be the same for every situation. But I'm trying to go through them just so that, like I said, the more knowledge that we have of it, then we can identify it when it's happening within us and say, all right, hold on, wait a minute, let me look in the mirror. Because your conscience, as long as it ain't seared with a hot iron, it's going to let you know something is off. It's just up to you to figure out why you being alerted, right? Like, man, why is this bothering me? Like, how many times have we been in that situation where it's like you might have a conversation with somebody, then you come back and you thinking like, man, why is my conscience bothering me? Like, did I say something wrong? Did they get offended? You got to figure out sometimes what it is or what's bothering you, But yeah, so y'all got anything, Elder?
I myself, I truly think it's a good thing when I'm corrected like that, because far be it for me to tell somebody or advise somebody on something that's not right or isn't true. And that's a good indication that you do have the Ruach, because if you don't feel this way when you're doing things, you might want to check yourself, because the Ruach, it is a good way to know that the Most High loves you. Just like you said, exactly. Who would have a child that wouldn't if you love him, you wouldn't correct him? Just like you said, for those that I love, I chastise, I rebuke, and I correct. So me, myself, personally, when someone comes in and lets me know that, hey, man, that ain't actually right, then I have to take a look at it and say, yo, bro, thank you, because I don't want to give nobody no false information or something that's not true, So when the Messiah sends someone or gives me that feeling that, what you are doing is not correct, I thank him for that, because I know that you're looking out for my best benefit, to where I can be a benefit to somebody else, But that's just how I feel about it.
Yeah, like it's right on point, because it's like, this is the thing, like the whole goal of this life is that we can find that oneness of self, and not just oneness with self, but to be on one accord with the Father and Mashiach, right? Like, we want to be in that alignment. That's what the whole purpose of this is. So, like, if we don't understand that that's why we're going through what we're going through, right? And that, okay, no, this is, whatever it is, whatever the test, the trial, whatever it is, the hardship, the suffering, whatever it is, okay, no, what can I learn from it, and what can it might just be that he's correcting, reproving, he's trying to work some things out of me. But if I don't see it as that, and I can't see myself in that process, then what becomes the source and the root cause of the problems? It's everyone and everything else, right? Now you're gonna cut yourself out because you won't correct yourself, but then you also, like, you're going to start to multiply and add on debt on top of debt on top of debt. And then now you're going to find a out. Instead of suffering and enduring, now it's that much worse in the process, right? Like, and you're not going to be satisfied until you do find whatever the out is. So it's like, it's a whole thing. Like, all of this is all with the goal for us to be able to draw closer and draw nearer to the Father. That's what all of it is about. Like, none of us are being tried for no reason. Like, no, we're being tried so that we can grow, develop into maturity. And depending on how quickly we do that, it might be a long, drawn out battle of getting chastised, right? Like, again, some stuff I can just speak on from personal experience. Every time that I done bumped my head and made things harder than it had to be, like, he turned the heat up more and more and more. Like, until I got to the point to where, like, we was talking about this earlier, like, you in that place, like how they say, like, sackcloth and ashes, and you, like, tearing your clothes. Like, I know what that feel like. Like, I done been there. So, like, again, some stuff I can speak on just because I know it. Like, but that was the one thing and the very thing that, like, it kind of saved my life, getting in that place. Because I definitely wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for that. So, yeah, you got to take the good with the bad, and you got to take the bumps and the bruises as you go.
It's like he was trying to wash his sin off with Uriah's blood, and wash his hands of it. But then when you see Pontius Pilate doing the same thing, he didn't want to judge Messiah. So that's when he did that symbolic washing of the hands. It's like, and then the people said, let his blood be on our children and us forever.
It's an excellent point. Trying to wash away his sins with Uriah's blood. That's a mouthful, Ak. So yeah, all praises. Like I said, y'all, I'm done. Y'all got anything?
No, I was just saying, you know how hard it is to wash blood off? It's just like, it's a stain. And even we're trying to wash our sin or blot it, or it's still there.
All praises. All praises. Well, I mean, you got any closing, anything on the agenda, anything like that? If not, we can rise and pray and head down to the lower level, because it's probably a little bit cooler down there. Boy, it's the guy. Ah, man, see, dang, wishful thinking. Well, yeah, all praises.
I got a question. Can someone be delivered from a reprobate mind?
Sit down for that one. That's kind of the point of being reprobate is
It's kind
it's
of
too
hard for
far
you to
gone. Yeah.
to turn back.
Like that's kind of what a reprobate is like this is where now when you get to that point, it's like the Father's not even like how the Pharisees became like, hey, you received your reward in full. Like I'm gonna let you do what you do. Like now he's not even at the point where he's correcting you. He's not chastising you. He's just letting you off to your own devices. Get what you can get while you have today, because judgment is already set. Like, but he does a whole lot to keep us from getting to that point. Like, I would say all the way up until that point, yeah, absolutely. But if you get to the point where you reprobate, that's because you have consciously made the decision not to make the change. Like, at that point, your heart is just hardened. Like, anytime that a person still has the ability to be corrected, it's still hope. But a reprobate is like that person that it's a wrap, you know. Is that mic on? I don't think it's on.
I think that would be someone who's been taught the truth and knows the truth, but then you reject the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So now he's going to give you over to a reprobate mind now,
Mm-hmm.
so that you never understand it, even when you're faced with it again.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like somebody understanding or being taught the truth, but then you turn around and you go to another faith. Now he's called you in, right? And you just totally decided to go against everything that he's been trying to reach you with. So he has no other choice but to give you over to a reprobate mind.
Mm-hmm.
You brought it on your own self.
Mm-hmm.
To know the truth and understand it and still deny it is almost like he said a big what did he say?
A dog returning to his vomit.
No, it's thrown into the river with a
Oh yeah.
with
A millstone wrapped around his neck.
millstone around you.
Mhm.
So the choice is yours. Take him at his word, or you deny him. And if you deny him, you got one other option, and that would be the lake of fire.
Yeah, I do want to caution that by saying though, like, there is also something to be said about us not determining when we think a person is reprobate, because we can't. That's something that the Father knows, but we can't always call that. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know what the Father is doing in that moment with that person. So like, we can go back to the example of David. In that moment, if you asking me right now, it'd be like, man, he a reprobate. Turn him away. He know better, right? But we don't know the end of that story. Like, a reprobate is something that it's kind of only he can determine that, because he knows the end of the story. So that's where that's not something for us to be like, oh, you a reprobate. Nah, that's not what Torah teaches. Torah says, like, listen, Ezekiel, even in the Tanakh, it says, like, look, I don't care if they're going to listen or not. Say it. Right? Like, otherwise the blood is going to be on you. Like, it's not for us to determine when a person is a reprobate. That's for the Father to look at and be like, reprobate, I don't wash my hands of you. Like, and a lot of times when a person is a reprobate, he will send somebody their way just so that he's just in his judgment. Like, sometimes that is the case where he'll send somebody your way just to say it, even though he knows that you're not going to listen, just so that he's just when he brings whatever judgment, whether it's on this side of things or the next. Like, but yeah, that's not really a call that any of us can make looking at another individual, because we don't know the end of the story and what the Father is doing in that moment with that person. But once he decides that a person is a reprobate, yeah, it's if he couldn't correct you, what will? Like, it's kind of a wrap on that. You cooked.
Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 13. Who can make straight what Elohim makes crooked? And that just kind of goes along with, if someone's reprobate, if I be who it says that he is, then we can't straighten that out. You know, that's I be Yahuwah's work.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's why Mashiach says everything that you've given, the Father has given me, I should lose nothing. And you gotta be very careful about trying to condemn people to the lake of fire. Very careful, because you don't know what the Father is doing with this person. You know what I'm saying? Even in their mess, you gotta be very careful.
All praises. Oh yeah. She talk about it's an inside thing. She talk about something else coming down the pipeline.
I want to say mic check so bad. I had to get a chance to get her.
Yeah, what she talking about it. There's a whole like long drawn out lesson, just on that right there, like on that topic, like for us to learn not to be too opinionated, because that can be the thing where now we putting ourselves in the place of the Father, and we gonna cause more problems than we gonna fix things in that state.
It also, if you're not careful, it's gonna also put you in a bad situation. So the same way that you're judging somebody else, you will end up in that same situation.
Like literally, this is how it works with the Father. Like you forsake mercy, your mercy is forsook. So like if you don't deal in mercy, like we just brought that up earlier today in conversation. Like they that, it says in Jonah, like they that believe in lying vanities, like forsake their own mercy. So it's like you'll put yourself in a position where, because you jumping the gun on a judgment that you don't know and don't even have the ability to make that judgment call on an individual, then now it's gonna be a situation where judgment gotta come to you, and you might need some mercy and you won't be able to tap into it. So yeah,
you got the liberty to, to judge by the letter of the law, but I say, Christ is telling you the whole time, like, choose mercy every time. There's gonna come a time where you gonna need it. Like
Straight up. And there is a such thing, like I don't want to, like I always have to give context. There is a such thing as righteous judgment, but even with that, like we got to make sure that we're being led by the Father on that. Like that's not an opinionated thing. That's not a thing that we take into our own hands. That's now we making it up as we go. That's not how that works. Like we got to be tapped in with his ruach. Like, okay, yeah, this was wrong, but is this a situation where the Father is saying that this individual be done with them, or is this just a stepping stone for them to learn? And do I need to be there to help walk them and guide them and let them know, hey, this is where you bumped your head, but let's get this on the right track? Like it's all sorts of things with that.
It's like when we pray, we say, forgive us for our sins, forgive us for our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Do we really forgive those who trespass?
That's a whole can of worms right there. Like it really is. It's a whole can of worms right there, because you don't really know it until it gets tried and it gets tested, and then now you're in a situation where it's like, who am I really? Now you gotta deal with that individual in the mirror, and you either gonna choose to operate according to what you believe, and then that's where this stuff comes in. Like, or I'm gonna look for other ways to frame it in my mind so that I don't have to forgive. So yeah. Anything else? Oh yeah, absolutely. Hey, what up, Ak? We got Steven in the building. In Dayton, Ohio, all the way from Alaska. Yeah, I'm about to say it's a change of pace right here. It's a change of weather for real, I bet. Not really? It can't be that hot up there. Oh no, that's wild.
It's burning up there.
Yeah, nah, that's wild. Wildfires, yeah, I didn't even know they get those up there. Yeah. Yeah, that's wild. All I think about is like an igloo and Eskimos. Like, yeah, that's all I be thinking about. And it's dark most of the time, or light most of the time, like one or the other. That's all I know. Moose, stuff like that. But yeah, all praises. Yeah, to everybody else, y'all know how I feel about you. Like, glad to see y'all. Yeah. All praises. Yeah, we can rise. Like I said, I'm still holding out hope. Hopefully it's even 3 degrees cooler downstairs is worth it. I've been up here sweating. All praises. All hearts and minds clear. Father, we thank you, give you honor, esteem. We praise you this day, bringing us together safely, bringing us all in one place, letting us be on one accord, just trying to get some understanding for ourselves, get understanding of you and your ways, and how to get ourselves in alignment with you and your ways. Like, that's our goal, Father. That's the ultimate goal. Just pray and ask, Father, that as we continue to go throughout this week, bring it to our attention, what we see in the mirror. Help us to navigate it and equip us with what we need to understand how to get on one accord, how to become a cod with you. Show us where we're compartmentalizing our being in a negative way, allowing us to operate within the space of a double mind. We want our mind and our eyes, our hearts to be single towards you. You commanded that we love you with our whole being, everything that we have. We shouldn't be divided in that, Father. Ask that you continue to bless those that are hearing what's being said, applying themselves. Everybody that's joined to this house, the house of refuge, far and wide. All of our Mishpakai that's here in building, out there in our own dwellings. Whoever ears this touches, pray that you would just continue to guide us, bless us, instruct us, chastise us, correct us. Pray that you would continue to equip us with the things that we need to get through the week. And if it be your will that we might all join one another again next week. Give you all of this thanks, honor, and esteem in the name of Mashiach, Yahusha. Let it be so.